Thanks so much, guys, and welcome back to Warthunder. Now, I don't really make many videos on Warthunder itself. Lately, I've been streaming a lot of it instead. However, I wanted to make a video talking a little bit about artillery, mostly to do with what I've been working on recently. Now, before I get into talking about how I've been able to make artillery work in the game using certain vehicles, I do want to talk about artillery as a concept and as a possible game mechanic in the near future. Both talking to the Warthunder devs and the Warthunder community as a whole, I've seen them spamming a lot of self-propelled artilleries into the game lately, and as a result, I would love to see a way to properly do indirect fire. However, I do want to point out some of the things that may need to change and some of the issues that are currently in the game that would prevent that. However, I don't want what World of Tanks does with the top-down camera. I think there is a better way to implement that. So I'm going to kind of talk through some of the issues I see currently in the game, things that could be easily changed small, and then work our way up to bigger mechanics that might come in the future before actually going to some of the tanks in the game that I have found are capable of doing indirect fire and artillery support. So, right now I'm looking at the M109. This is pretty much the definition of a self-propelled artillery. The gun has a very high elevation, has a big HE shell that can really knock a lot of things if you hit them really anywhere. However, the first issue with the game is the actual scaling of distance. Now, normally, you don't need this amount of range. However, if you are wanting to do any sort of indirect fire, eventually the gun does cut off and you can't elevate the gun anymore using this range system. That being said, it means that you can't actually use it as a scale to find distance and correct off shots. You have to move the mouse around. And here soon, I should hit the gun's max elevation. This is the most I can elevate the gun using just the scale that it gives you in the sight. Despite the fact the gun can elevate a full 70 degrees. Additionally, in the sight, there is no markers for indirect fire. There is only direct fire markers. If we do end up having some sort of artillery support fire, when we scale the sight to a distance, I would love to actually see a second scale appear near the bottom for overhead shots, indirect fire, things of that nature. Additionally, many of these artillery support tanks do actually have what are known as bagged charges, meaning that when you load the tank, you can actually decide how much propellant to put into it. So instead of having a round with a fixed 684 meters per second, it would be nice to have either the same round, but with different propellant charges that you could swap through like you would any other tank, choosing other rounds, to have lower velocity shells for closer encounters. And with all of that said, it would function at this point like an artillery, and you could actually use it in a match for some level of indirect fire, given you have some level of support, which I will get into with some of the other tanks I will talk about. However, the actual big mechanic I would love to see added is actually something similar to how radar already works in the game. Now, if you were to look at a plane and radar lock it, you would get the little square around it and a rough estimate for lead indication. I think it would be really nice if in the game when a target gets scouted, making it so that the artillery works with the light tanks, when a target gets scouted, the artillery could see that box around the tank. And if you really want to be helpful, give them an estimated elevation in order to fire. That would be a bit gamification of the actual concept, but it would be a nice feature I'd love to see in a nice mechanic, and I think it would work well with the way Warthunder already plays, and making it a way where self-propelled artillery can act direct fire as they already do in the game, or if you have scouts on the team, when they scout an enemy tank, like you would with a fire observer or a fire correction system, someone actually sitting there looking at the target who is being hit, getting that data to the artillery and being able to see them as a square, similar to how with the radar, or actually how scout drones do it as well. Now, for how we've actually gotten this to work in-game currently is through the use of a scout drone, which means you either need to be using a high-tier light tank that has a scout drone equipped, or you have to be using a second player who has a scout drone on their light tank. Unfortunately, that means that for the sake of what we're doing, you both need a low velocity, high explosive cannon for indirect fire and a scout drone. So there's only a handful of tanks where you can do this by yourself, and trying to actually get that second person can be quite difficult, or even not very fun for the person who is just sitting there in a scout drone the entire match. So, as I already described with what I think would be the best way to implement artillery, another option would be just to give the artillery their own scout drones, as well as, like I mentioned before, the ability to change the charge of their round for a lower velocity. Because unfortunately, 600 meters per second is a little high for what we are doing. Because what we can do with our drone is actually mark targets. This means that we can see the target even if there are obstacles in the way. Let me back up here for a bit so it'll be a better demonstration of what I am intending to show. So right now I cannot see any of the tanks that are over there. However, with my drone, I still have line of sight on all of them. And what I can do is place my marker on the roof and see the tank. Now with this one, the main cannon's an auto cannon, it's not very good, but the 100 millimeter that this carries is a 250 meters per second shell, which is one of the slower shells in the game. So I can get that tank, and through a number of different ways, get the range for it. It is difficult, but not impossible, to mark the tank and actually hit the rangefinder.
Tank, 2 o'clock. Range, 1300.
And get the range for it. And that range is reasonably accurate. Okay, one shot, one kill. I was not expecting that. Let's try that again with another tank. Usually you do have to fire 2 or 3 rounds to actually get a proper hit.
2 o'clock. Range, 950.
Like that, little far, you then correct fire. Hit. And then from there, you could just walk the round into a sweet spot. Since you know exactly where you're wanting to hit, hits the track, just move up and to the right. It's the top. I want to get on top of the turret. Kill. Another way you can do it is just measuring the map. You're given the actual scale for the map. On most maps, this one doesn't seem to actually have a scale. So you can count out how far away a target is. Additionally, if they are on a cap point, you can use that as a rough range, or just use the cap point as reference. Additionally, if you actually want to like use a ruler, you can just measure things, and through a pretty simple calculation, you can just get a rough range. And then the same way that I would walk in the target like I did on this tank, you could strike them as well. This does take quite a few shots to do sometimes, meaning that faster reload tanks are nicer, but also if you have a big enough round, you don't really need to hit them in a sweet spot like this is. You just have to hit them somewhere. So, actually using this in combat. A few things. One, the method that I showed a second ago, where you actually just hit rangefinder.
2 o'clock. Range 950.
Can still work, but is very finicky. Actually, measuring the map is the best one I found so far. Or if you just have a fire rate that's high enough, just trial and error. Just shoot around to see where it hits and try and walk it in over 5 or 6 different rounds. It will run out of ammo quickly, but it's oftentimes faster to actually hit a target unless your random firing spooks someone and they start moving. So, I'm going to show some footage from a recent stream that I did to give you an idea of what this method actually looks like in combat. I'm just doing it because it's funny. So next time we do get into the main menu, we might just test drive it. God, I love the audio bug, the audio glitch that happens here. This is a great game, Gaijin.
Recon reports enemy spotted. Allied forces have captured a zone. Recon reports enemy spotted.
How far away is the point? Way too short, isn't it? Yep, I need to go about double that. 1,200. Sure what you're sitting there waiting for, buddy. Okay. Kill. Okay. One hit, one kill. Can't say one shot, but bro, I just wanted to play today. Someone says in chat that wasn't the guy I killed though. Would have been funny if it was. Oh, I still have 100% throttle. Forgot to put that down. Eek. 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 You look like a juicy target. Alright. Alright. We're popping off this match. You seem to be hiding. Are you doing anything interesting? Saw someone out here a minute ago, I thought. You're an MG. There he is.
Recon reports
Bye.
We've been hit. Recon reports enemy spotted.
That hit. That hit short. Probably gonna get bombed here any second.
Reports enemy spotted.
Short.
Sir, 11 o'clock. Rain. 1200.
1200. We need to go for 1150. There's 1150. Fire. Hit.
Recon reports
A little bit short. We can just fix that by going a little high. Hit.
Recon reports
Got his track. He's not moving. Kill! Third kill in the match. Oh, my heart's racing. And with all that being said and done, I am going to go ahead and end this here. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for sticking around. And until next time, peace.